What if I told you there are anime where the main character isn't actually the strongest, and the real monsters are standing right next to him? These aren't just side characters, these are characters who completely dominate the story every time they appear, stealing the spotlight and showing a level the MC can't even reach yet. In this video, we're counting down 7 anime where the side character is stronger than the main character from number 7 all the way to number 1. And trust me, the higher we go, the more broken they get. So, let's get started. At number 7, we have Jujutsu Kaisen, and this is one of the clearest examples of a side character completely overshadowing the main character in terms of power. Yuji may be the protagonist, and he definitely grows stronger over time, but from the very beginning, it's obvious that Satoru Gojo exists on a completely different level. He's not just strong, he's untouchable. Every time Gojo appears, the entire atmosphere changes because you instantly know that no matter what's happening, he can handle it without even trying. What makes this so interesting is that he doesn't just outclass Yuji, he outclasses almost everyone in the entire series. His abilities, confidence, and presence make him feel more like a final boss than a mentor. Even the strongest enemies have to plan carefully just to deal with him. And because of that, Yuji's growth always happens in the shadow of someone who already represents the absolute peak. It's that contrast between a growing protagonist and a side character who has already reached godlike power that makes this such a perfect example, and exactly why it takes the number 7 spot on this list. At number 6, we have Black Clover, and this is one of those series where the side characters constantly feel like they're ahead of the main character. Asta is the protagonist, and he works insanely hard to become stronger, but from the start it's clear that characters like Yami and the Magic Knight captains are on a completely different level. What makes this stand out is that these side characters don't just feel slightly stronger, they feel like endgame fighters from the very beginning. Every time Yami steps into a fight, the scale of the battle changes instantly because his power, experience, and presence completely overshadow everyone else. Even as Asta grows, there are still moments where the captains feel like they're carrying the situation. This creates a dynamic where the main character is constantly chasing a level that already exists within the story. It's that contrast between Asta's growth and the overwhelming strength of the side characters that makes this such a strong example, and exactly why it takes the number 6 spot on this list. At number 5, we have Naruto, and this is one of the most iconic examples of side characters being far stronger than the main character for a huge part of the story. Naruto starts as one of the weakest ninjas, struggling with basic techniques and constantly falling behind everyone else. Meanwhile, characters like Itachi, Pain, and later Madara exist on a completely different level, to the point where they feel almost untouchable compared to him. What makes this stand out is how overwhelming that gap is, because even when Naruto starts improving, these characters still feel like final bosses he's not ready to face. Every time someone like Itachi appears, the entire tone shifts, because you know you're watching someone operating at a level far beyond the protagonist. It creates a constant sense of progression, where Naruto is always chasing strength that already exists in the world. And even when he gets stronger, there are still moments where these side characters feel more dangerous, more experienced, and more complete. It's that massive power gap and the presence of legendary characters overshadowing the MC that makes this such a clear example and exactly why it takes the number 5 spot on this list. At number 4, we have One Punch Man, and this is a slightly different case where the side characters don't just rival the MC, they actually feel more relevant and threatening at times. Saitama is technically the strongest character in the entire series, but because he defeats everything in one punch, there's no real tension when he's on screen. Meanwhile, characters like Garo or even the mysterious Blast bring a level of danger, progression, and unpredictability that Saitama simply doesn't. What makes this stand out is that the real fights, the real stakes, and the real growth often happen around the side characters, not the main one. Garo, for example, constantly evolves, adapts, and pushes himself to new limits, making his journey feel far more intense and engaging than Saitama's effortless victories. Because of that, there are moments where these side characters feel stronger in terms of narrative weight, impact, and presence. It's that contrast between an unbeatable MC and side characters who actually struggle, grow, and dominate their own fights that makes this such a unique example and exactly why it takes the number 4 spot on this list. At number 3, we have Bleach, and this is one of the most obvious cases where multiple side characters are consistently ahead of the main character. Ichigo is strong and keeps getting power-ups throughout the series, but characters like Aizen, Kenpachi, and several captains are operating on a completely different level for a huge part of the story. What makes this stand out is how overwhelming that gap feels, especially with Aizen, who doesn't just beat his enemies, he completely outplays and outclasses them mentally and physically. Every time he's involved, it feels like no one, including Ichigo, is even close to his level. Even outside of Aizen, characters like Kenpachi bring a raw level of strength and battle instinct that makes them feel more dominant in certain situations. This creates a constant dynamic where Ichigo is chasing power that already exists within the world, trying to catch up to characters who feel like they've already reached their peak. It's that consistent presence of side characters who feel stronger, more experienced, and more complete that makes this such a clear example and exactly why it takes the number 3 spot on this list. At number 2, we have Attack on Titan. And this is one of the most obvious cases where a side character completely outclasses the main character in combat. Eren may be the protagonist and central to the story, but when it comes to pure skill and fighting ability, Levi is on a completely different level. From the very beginning, Levi is shown as humanity's strongest soldier, someone who can take down Titans effortlessly in ways no one else can replicate. What makes this stand out is how consistent that gap is, because even as Eren gains new abilities and becomes more important to the plot, Levi still feels like the most reliable and dominant fighter on the battlefield. Every time he enters a fight, the situation instantly shifts, and you know things are about to change. His speed, precision, and experience make him feel untouchable compared to everyone else around him. It creates a dynamic where the main character might be the key to the story, but the side character is the one who actually dominates in action. It's that clear difference between narrative importance and raw power that makes this such a strong example, and exactly why it takes the number 2 spot on this list. At number 1, we have Hunter x Hunter, and this is easily the best example of a world where the side characters are far stronger than the main character. Gon is the protagonist, and he definitely has insane potential, but for most of the series, he's nowhere near the top in terms of actual power. What makes this stand out is just how many characters completely outclass him, from Hisoka to Netero, and especially Meruem, who exists on a level that feels almost unreachable. These aren't just slightly stronger characters, they represent the absolute peak of power in the entire world. Every time they appear, you can feel the difference immediately because their presence alone changes everything. Meanwhile, Gon is still growing, still learning, and still trying to catch up to a level that feels almost impossible to reach. Even when he has his biggest moments, it's clear that there are still characters above him. It's that constant gap between the main character and the true top tiers of the verse that makes this the perfect example and exactly why it takes the number 1 spot on this list. And that was 7 anime where the side character is stronger than the main character. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe for more anime tops like this. And let me know in the comments which character you think completely carried their series, or if there's another anime that deserved a spot on this list, because the next top is going to be even crazier.